Okay, so today you're going to need a couple things for class. You're going to need a copy of this paper, and you're going to need about 4 different colors of pen or color pencil or marker or whatever it is that you want to use, because we're going to use those for our notebook today. And then you're also going to need, at the end, you're going to need this little sheet that has 3 examples on it. So we're going to be working on using nets to find the surface area of a 3-dimensional shape. So the learning target at the top says I can use the nets, and we talked about nets yesterday, to find the surface area of a 3-dimensional shape. So as the title says, we're going to be finding surface area using nets. So it's important for us to know what surface area is. So this is a new word. Surface area is often abbreviated SA. So anytime you see SA, that means they want you to find surface area. Surface area, the definition of the surface area is the combined, so make sure you're writing this down, area of all of the faces. So yesterday we talked about faces. Remember, faces are just the surfaces of a 3-dimensional shape of a 3D figure. So if you need to pause so you can write that down, do it. So it says surface area is the combined area of all the faces or surfaces of a 3-dimensional shape or of a 3-dimensional figure. So basically that's why it's called surface area, because you're finding the area of all the surfaces and then putting them back together. So we're going to work through 4 examples today. As we work through these, we're going to identify what they are, and then we're going to use that to help us find the surface area. So this is the first example that we're going to do, and this is a net. And when I look at this net, I see that this side is 3 and this side is 3, and all of the measurements are identical, which means this has to be a cube. And we know that a cube has 6 congruent faces, and all of them are squares in order for it to be a cube. So we're going to use that to our advantage. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about one of these faces. So if I pick any one of these faces, let's say I pick this face. So we're going to color code it. That's a square. And because it's a square, this side is 3 and this side is 3. So to find the area of just that one face, I would do 3 times 3. This is where we fall back on all those formulas that we've been learning. So the area of this one part is 9. Well, if there's 6 congruent faces and they're all squares, then that means this one is also 9, this one is 9, this one is 9, this one is 9, and this one is 9. Because they're all congruent. So if I want to know the total surface area, I'm going to either do 9 plus 9 plus 9, but the shortcut method is I have 6 faces. So 9 times 6 is 54. So the surface area of this shape is 54. Now let's do our units because this is area. Those 2 little marks beside each of those 3's means inches. So the units here would be inches squared. The surface area of that shape is 54 inches squared. Let's move on to the next shape. So I know from looking at the net that this is a rectangular prism. So I'm going to write that, rectangular prism. And I'm going to use that to my advantage because I know some things about a rectangular prism, because it's kind of like a box, which means opposite sides have to be the same because otherwise the box wouldn't fold up correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to color code some sides. So this is where those colored pencils or markers come into play. So let's just start with this box right here, or this part of the box right here. If you look at that picture, the part that I just color coded in pink is also going to be the same as this part right here, because those two would be what would match up together. And those are just rectangles. So to determine the area, I'm going to do the length times the width. So it's 4 high and 14 long. So 4 times 14 gives me an area for those two of 56. Okay, let's switch colors because I don't have any more that look like that one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to find a different shape. So I see this one here. And if you look, you see that this one also has to match that one. They have to be congruent to each other. So that's also a rectangle. It is 8 units tall. And you see that it is the same length this way as this one up here. So it's got to be 14 because it has to match up. So 8 times 14 would give me 112. And because those two are congruent, I'm going to label them both. Okay, let's do the last shape that you see. So I see that this is also a rectangle. Those two are congruent because they would be like the side flaps that would fold up. And this one is 8 this way, and then if we look at it really closely, it matches up with the side of this one, which means it has to be the same as this side over here. So it's 8 by 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. So each of those is 32. So now that I have all of my individual areas, what I need to do is put them all back together. So we're going to do 112, 112, 56, 56, 32, and 32. We're going to add all of those up, and we get a final surface area of 400, and my units are inches squared. Okay, let's move on to the next example. So the next example is this one down here. I know based on looking at this net, the bases or the ends of it are going to be triangles, and these do not come to a point. So this is going to be a triangular prism, and I'm abbreviating. Triangular prism. So let's break it into pieces. The first piece that I see is this side right here. And I know that because of the measurements, it says this is 5, this is 5, and this is 5. So all 3 of these are the same. So I'm going to color code them all the same. Now, color coding really helps you when you're doing this because it helps you see what's identical, which makes your math a lot easier. So these are just rectangles. So I'm going to do 10 times 5. So that's easy math. That's 50. And if they're all congruent, then these are all 50. And then let's use a different color. So I just grabbed a purple. We have a triangle on the end, and these two would have to be identical triangles or congruent triangles. And if it helps, you can turn your paper sideways. To find the area of a triangle, we have to have the base and the height. So I do have a base. It tells me right here that the base of this is 5 because it has to match up with that rectangle. And the height is 4. So I'm going to do 5 times 4, which is 20. Don't forget the all-important step of then dividing it by 2, which means that the area of this one is 10. And if the area of that one is 10, then the area of this one over here is also 10. So to find our total area, we're now going to add all of these up. So we're going to do 50, 50, 50, and then 10 and 10. And there are some shortcuts. Some of you probably realize what they are, and if you see them, go for it. If not, we're just going to break it down into the 6 parts that we see. So then we have 50, 50, 50, plus 10 and 10, and we get a total surface area. So the surface area here is 170. Our units are going to be centimeters squared. Okay, the last figure looks like this one. I can tell if I were to fold this shape up, the base of it's going to be a square, it appears. And then we have these sides that are all triangular in shape. So this is going to come to a point, which means this is going to be a square pyramid. So that's going to be a square pyramid. So let's think about a square pyramid. Let's just start with that centerpiece. So this is a square, obviously. So we've got a square. A square has the same sides on all sides, and so I just do 5 times 5, which means this one has an area of 25. That was easy enough. Now we're going to go to the next part, which it appears that we have 4 congruent triangles, so all of these are the same. I can't draw. All 4 of them are the same. To find the area of a triangle, we do base times height, and then we divide by 2, so we're going to do 5 times 6, which is really simple. That's 30, and then 30 divided by 2 would be 15. So each of these little triangles would have an area of 15. So that's easy enough. And then to find the complete surface area, remember surface area is the combined area of all the surfaces or all the faces of that figure. We're going to add them back up. So we're going to do 15, 15, 15, 15, and 25. And when you add all of those up, you get 85. So the surface area of this shape is 85, and the units are going to be inches squared. So once you finish that, you can take just a minute and glue that into your notebook. Your haiku page will tell you where to glue it. And then you're going to need, just like I said, this copy that looks like this. You're not even going to cut these apart. You're just going to glue these into your notebook on the next page, and you're going to take some time to color code these faces just like we just did together, and see if you can determine the surface area of each shape. Now this one on the end is very tricky. I do want to draw your attention to this. So we have what appears to be 3 rectangles, but they're not the same. So please be careful with that one, and we will talk about that one together. I also want to remind you that when you're finding the area of a triangle, you have to have a base and a height. So if you look at this triangle as it is, this is a base, but then I don't have a height. So you're going to have to physically turn that triangle until you have a base and a height. And then these two would be identical triangles, but these are not the same measurement. So try to think about what lines up with what to help you figure out side measurements. Just try it. That one is a hard one. I gave you that one on purpose to see what you could do with it. Thanks, guys.